Hey tubers, this is something I thought I'd put together for you. Here's my 1999 Jeep TJ Sahara, and it's a 4-liter. And what's happening is on the fenders we're experiencing some rust. As you can see here, we're going right through. So what I'm going to attempt to do is to show you how I'm proceeding with this and how I'll be able to remove it. In the box way up top up there are two fiberglass fenders that I purchased off the internet, and on later videos I will unbox those and you guys will be able to see it. They're white. So let's get started. First of all, of course, very important, always wear safety glasses. These ones here also have a reading glasses option, so they're clear at the bottom, clear at the top, and yet reading glasses at the bottom. I found them shopping one day in a second-hand store. They come in really handy. The other thing is keep your space clean. Of course, that's extremely important. I've got myself a little trolley here. I'm going to put all my pliers and everything on the bottom shelf, and the top shelf here is going to be all my ratchets and so on. And there's one more drawer down here which is empty, and that I will keep for a lot of the spare parts, bolts and so on. And of course I'll use this one sparingly. Another thing that I've done is that you see the Ziplocs. What I'm doing is that every time I remove a whole bunch of bolts from one of these parts, if I can attach them to the part, that would be great, but sometimes they're loose, so I'll put them in the baggie. And with this paper and pen, I'll rip off a little corner and put inside basically what they were for, so I can remember everything. Now the purpose of this video is also for me. It's very self-serving. Basically what that's going to help me do is remember how these things come apart. So anyway, cleanliness is extremely important. Organization is extremely important. And lighting, of course. Here's my make do LED strip light that I kind of hung up there, and as you can see, it's giving me pretty decent lighting up on the Jeep there. So first thing, take the fiberglass or the plastic fender part off, and let's see how that goes. And I'm gonna let you know how much time that took me to do that. All right, so here we go. Okay, tubers, here we go. So I ended up having to take the wheel off, and I didn't bother showing you that. I assumed that at this point, if you don't know how to take a tire off, you're not going to be able to take a fender off. So first thing, I removed the side flasher and I removed the front flasher. Basically just two screws, pretty simple. The actual front flasher is still hanging right here, and I labeled it front and up, so we know that it's going to go in here. The other one, as you could see in here, I labeled signal and then fender, and the actual signal light is actually sitting right there in my tray, and I will be putting some kind of a little label on that later. Now underneath there are a collection of these little bolts, and these little bolts basically is an 8mm, and you have to hold the other side with your fingers, because I couldn't get a wrench or anything back there. And it's not so bad if it's got a lot of dust on it or a lot of crud. It's a little bit harder to hold, but you should be able to hold it. Shouldn't be that bad. But the last three towards the back of the vehicle, let me show you this. The last three, they're a little more complicated. So here's where I am, right? Front of the Jeep, right? Like this. I'm all the way up here, right? So you see there's one up there, there's one there, and there's one there. Okay? And I'll show you what that looks like. They look like this. So they're not like the other ones, and they're threaded, and when you try to remove it, basically they spin right into midair. So the best way that I found to remove it was to jam a screwdriver. You can see that right in there. So I jammed a screwdriver underneath that front washer, and by applying pressure I was able to remove it, because there's no plastic part on the inside like these ones. There's no plastic like that. It's just your straight bolt. So I'll be doing that. And so far I've been into this about an hour and a quarter, something like that, just to give you a rough idea of, you know, how much time I put into this. So, all right, see you in a bit. All right, so I got the last one off, and wouldn't you know it, that was the toughest one of all, and that's the bottom one, right in there. And it ended up that I had to pry it off pretty hard for me to be able to pop it off, because it kind of spins into nowhere when you actually are trying to remove it. Now, once you've done that, I've noticed that there's right in here, the fender actually just kind of pops right into these holes right here. There's one here, there's one here, and as you can see, it just comes right off, right into these guys right here. See, these things here, and one there, there's another one here, and basically they just sit right into that hole, right into those two holes, and by doing so, it lines it up kind of nicely. So, you know, after all, looking at this, the Fender's not in bad shape. Might be able to sell them maybe on local, you know, ad on the internet. Somebody wants to repair them, they can. But anyway, I'll be proceeding by removing some more of this internal hardware, horns, you know, containers and whatever these things are. So I'll keep you posted. Right. Alright, here we go. So far, removed the washer fluid, which basically took 3 bolts, 3 number 10s, one here, and one all the way down in here, right there. Yeah, I guess zoom in on that or something. But anyway, it's, oh, we can see it kind of there. There we go, right in there. So I'll take this washer fluid and just kind of, I guess, flip it up, and then put it over the engine for now. Alright, so I've decided to remove this bar here that goes onto this 13 millimeter, because by raising it up I was able to move the bottle over and swing it right underneath there, like that. And then what I did is that I removed this number 13 and this one here, which basically are holding the horns onto the fender. So I have to put those in a little baggie once we're done with those little bolts, and we're going to continue on. I guess the next step, we need to remove this guy. That's a 13 mil, so I have to remove this also, and the holder for the hood. So I think that's by underneath. There's a couple of bolts underneath. They look like a number 10 or something, but I can let you know a little bit later. And then I guess the next step is to remove this item over here, and as we move towards the back, we'll update you on the video. Things so far are pretty easy, except for those last 3 little bolts down there. That was the hardest part. Aside from that, things are pretty mechanical. It's pretty simple. So stay tuned.